Hello, welcome. My name's Peter Glock. Today we're going to be looking at, well, should you trust a network? And particularly, should you trust a network when you're out and about in the public space? I'm going to illustrate how much trust we should put in networks by conducting a fairly simple attack using ActiveSync. And that's, for the uninitiated, that's the ability to read other people's email and get their login details because they clicked continue when they shouldn't. So just to set this up, what's the problem? Well, Exchange ActiveSync, it's actually used to connect your iPhone, your Android, your BlackBerry back to an Exchange server. And that Exchange server is either hosted by Microsoft as part of their Office 365 service, or might be in your own premises or hosted by a third party like GoDaddy. But it's the most common technology that businesses use for email. Now, the downside of using that is if your email login is compromised, that's also your login for all the other Windows services you'll be using. Now, ActiveSync itself relies on SSL or transport layer security to provide a secure path from the client to the server. And that's not such a bad thing because TLS, which replaced SSL, is used for e-commerce sites. It's used around the world. It's actually quite secure in itself. But because of a little quirk in the user behavior when people are using email clients, and especially on mobile devices, ActiveSync itself is very vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks because of that user behavior. And you'll see what I mean when I go through it. So what have I put together? To not bore the non-technically minded, I'll go through this quite quickly. If you want more details, there'll be links to the tool sets in the YouTube video. And I leave it as an exercise for the listener to actually go through and set this up on your own machine. I use a Mac, but you can run it on a Linux machine, you can run it on Windows. The attack works from most things. I've even seen this running on an Android tablet, so be careful. You can't just look out for the obvious hacker with the beard sat in a coffee shop hacking into these things. It could be anyone with any device. So, to start with, I used a proxy server. That's something that sits in the middle of two other things. One that's capable of talking in a secure method both to the client, that's your device, and to the server you're trying to communicate with. The one I use is something called mitmproxy. There are several others that you could use. This one just happens to have a nice web interface called mitm web, which makes it easier for me to show people the effect of their behavior. Then you need some way of directing the traffic to that proxy. One of the methods I've used before is to set up a dummy Wi-Fi access point, and then just point all the traffic from that to my laptop. But for this hack, I'm actually going to do it even simpler, and I'm just going to fool all of the devices on my home network, because I'm doing this at home, to use my laptop as its main proxy. Just to make life even simpler, I'm only connecting one device to the network apart from my computer, and you'll see that when we go through the demo. Then you need some way of decoding all of the traffic that you're capturing. Actually built into Safari, which is the web browser on the Mac, there's a very simple decoder, and I'll use that, and you'll see what I mean when we go through it. And the last thing you need is a user willing to ignore a simple warning. Well, let's just have a look and see what actually happens. Let's set this up and get going, and you'll see what I mean. All right, so setup. First thing I do is start up the what's called bettercap, which is the way of directing all the traffic to my machine. Then, once that's running, I'm going to fire up the proxy server. Now, so there's bettercap firing up, and you'll notice it's basically just between my laptop and another machine. Then we fire up the proxy server. You'll see all those domain names at the end of the command line. You don't have to worry about actually how you format them, but one way of protecting a website or a service from this kind of attack is to use what's called certificate pinning. Now, the reason I've chosen ActiveSync is no ActiveSync implementation uses certificate pinning. In other words, ActiveSync will accept any kind of security certificate, which is the problem, basically. So, well, it's all set up, it's running, I'm seeing traffic flowing. So let's have a look and see what I would see on my iPhone. So I look for mail, and I get this very simple warning come up. Now, what do you think everyone presses? That's right, they press the continue button. And now I've done that, well, let's just see what details have been captured because I've set that. So I've opened up the capture file because I've been saving those lot to a file which is set on my laptop. And then I'm going to go and display it in a browser. So that means I can, using whatever device I want to, I can capture the information and be very surreptitious about it and then go away and analyze it later. So let's fire up a web browser and have a look and see what I've captured. Well, here are those flows that you saw. Let's just click on one. Oh, and look, there's an authorization line. And in it, it's got something called the basic authorization. If I take that and then fire up a little console, and as I said, this is built into the Mac, so I don't even have to go to anywhere else, then just type in a simple decode command, which is decode, and then A to B, because that's the kind of hashing in here, and then paste in that long chain of letters, hit return, and oh my god, that's my user ID and password. And it is actually. Or it was at the time I did this demo. That's now changed, of course, because I'm not that foolish to post my user ID and password on YouTube. So that's basically the way we can attack. And just to summarize, the simple act of clicking continue on a device, whether that's a BlackBerry, an Android, or whatever it is, can lead to a compromise. So all users, that's anyone watching this video, and people you talk to, need educating about the dangers of ignoring security warnings. One way of doing that is, if you happen to be involved in information security in your business, go and do some, now and again, just set up some dummy Wi-Fi access points, get people to connect, and then play back to them that you've got their user ID and password. Got to be a little careful of this one, because if you were to use that user ID and password to access anything, that would be the Computer Misuse Act that you've just broken, and that is a criminal offence. So, as I said, you might need to have a conversation with whoever your HR organisation is to run that wall of shame, but it's a good way of getting the point across. Okay, so that's it for this very quick demo. Didn't take long. If you want to know more about reducing cyber risk, sign up your business or come along and sign up on brownglock.com's website. Thank you very much.